Hey, today I'm doing a breakdown of one of the high ticket programs that I came across in the last few weeks with a unique mission that I think has some potential hidden revenue hiding right under its nose. And I wanted to show you kind of how they are helping military members gain their time and money freedom, even as they defend the freedoms of our country day in and day out. So, if this is the first time joining one of my lives. I'm Brian Czekanski, and I help companies just like active duty passive income to get more high ticket customers into their program by really focusing on all those people that fall through the cracks within their existing funnel. In this case, talking about a webinar that they're using to enroll people into their high ticket program and ultimately into their mastermind on an ongoing basis. So let's kind of jump in a little bit more about this. So again, this is a company that I came across a couple of weeks ago, not necessarily working with right now, but would love to help get more people into their mastermind. And I'll show you just in a few minutes on how I saw just some hidden potential there, just kind of sitting through and getting more military people into their program and furthering their mission along the way. So this was a company that, kind of the CEO and founder was actually somebody that grew up in Ukraine for most of his life. I think he came over to the US when he was around 16 years old. I think he went to the Naval Academy and ultimately went into the Marines, served in the Marines for 6 or 8 years over that period. And when he was in when he was in the Marines, he had a girlfriend that was working, going to school in France. For that, and he constantly wanted to visit her all the time, but obviously he didn't have, number one, he didn't have the money to spend to visit her all the time, but also didn't have the time to allocate towards that. So that could, provide the inspiration for like, okay, how can I obviously visit her a little bit more often, but how can I just get away from, kind of always being strapped for cash, always being strapped for time, especially as he thought about eventually getting out of the Marines in the next few years. And during that time period, that's where he found real estate and kind of got into the strategies that he kind of implements and shares to his kind of military peers, whether they're active duty right now or out of their military service along the way. And I think one of the things that kind of really separated him from all the other real estate gurus that I see out there is obviously that focus on the military. He does live webinars every single week to kind of get people into this high ticket program. And I think, his focus on that webinar of kind of three forms of leverage. I think the one thing that stood out in particular is, especially if you're in the military and you're kind of on active duty, is like, how do I have time and energy to do this on an ongoing basis? And how much do I need to know to be, investing in apartment buildings and all the other things to start getting this passive income? So he's kind of established kind of his way of doing things, which is really breaking up that real estate investor into kind of four different types of people. So thinking about like, how can we invest in real estate projects by creating like a team of four people, four military members that kind of handle each set of what you have to do from a real estate perspective, whether it's going out and talk to investors or doing due diligence or finding the deals all together. And there was one other one that top of my head I can't think of, but so really, kind of allocating and breaking down those rules of that real estate investor to, kind of slow down. Like the learning curve is not as steep as it needs to be, and you're leaning on your other military team members. And as part of his high ticket program, he helps you find those other three team members and really matching up your personality and maybe even what your role was in the military to, okay, this is the right fit for you within this team. Whether, again, if it's a little bit more analytical type of approach within the due diligence, or maybe being a little bit more outgoing and reaching out to investors and going back and forth with them. So important. I thought it was just an innovative way to, again, speed up that process, especially with these military members. They're gonna, they're gonna think I've got to go through 5 or 10 years of real estate experience and education and everything else to get to my first deal. His way of kind of cutting through that was giving him the leverage to say, like, no, you only have to learn one aspect of this, and you can lean on the rest of your teammates in the same way that you're in the military and leaning on everybody else. You kind of take that military approach and he's taking it to real estate. And by doing that, he accelerates their progress, allows them to work, maybe they're working 3 to 5 hours a week on doing this every single week. That's completely manageable. And he's got testimonials of all these military members, whether in the US or on bases outside of the US, that have been able to do it along the way. kind of fits their personality, fits the amount of time they have, and like what they enjoy doing on a daily basis. And then thinking of like other sources like funding and getting into the competence by just taking action along the way, giving them people an action plan of like, okay, step by step, here's how you're getting into that. So just want to provide a little bit more detail in terms of what the strategy looks like in terms of their business model, because I've gone through it in a little bit more detail. But this is kind of what it looks like. So again, like he's doing a live webinar every single week. One thing I would say from a live webinar perspective, they're great because you have that live interaction. You get a good sense of what the questions are. You can provide some results along the way and saying like, oh, like, oh, look at all these people that have signed up for a call right away. But on the flip side, I can tell you that now that he's got a couple thousand members into his lower tier program right here. And in this webinar is really focused on this military multifamily academy cohort. So he's got these cohorts of people that are going through learning the basics of their strategy, finding other team members that they could potentially work with, and then figuring out like, okay, what aspect of real estate do I really want to be spending my time on, going through that and doing that. So I don't know what the pricing was, but I would imagine he's probably charging at least 5K. I would hope that he's charging at least 5K for this. And then obviously, as you go through the cohort, yeah, that's where it feeds into the mastermind. And again, there is some aspect of one-to-one coaching. I don't know if it's a formal part of his business plan or not, but I saw within his program there is one-to-one coaching. Kind of those elite members of his mastermind are kind of coaching down to people that have gotten their first deals but want to accelerate their progress along the way. So one thing to point out is he's not really, if you want to get into the mastermind right now, which again, I've seen other programs and organizations that have military real estate masterminds and they do quite well. But if I want to get in the mastermind right now, maybe I could go to the live event and become part of the mastermind if I asked, but he's not directly selling into that mastermind. And I think in looking at his business plan along with one-to-one coaching, there's no reason that he can't sell directly into those things. He probably, says to himself, I probably don't have a way of selling into a mastermind that might cost 20 or 25K a year. Like he's kind of focused on kind of this trickle up type of ascension model where it's like, okay, like if somebody watches my webinar, most people will only watch a certain part of that webinar because he's doing a live webinar. He probably has a lot of drop off in terms of the people that do register and that don't actually show up on whatever day it was. So like if I signed up for his webinar today, I think the webinar would be, maybe 5 days from now or every Thursday he might do them. So again, if I have to wait a week or 5 days to watch that actual webinar and I have a ton of things going on right now, especially if I'm in the military to have on active duty and that time might not match up with what my schedule looks like, hey, you're probably going to lose me along the way. So he's losing a lot of people, and I think he recognizes that. So he's kind of developed kind of these, the ADPI boot camp in terms of like, okay, what areas of research, like what areas of real estate should I invest in? And he's doing it a smart way. Like basically, this boot camp is basically the webinar broken up into 4 different videos where you go through. So he's got a 7-day trial, and then you pay $14 a month. All those people are really just getting education on the real estate. He's really just taking that webinar that he did, which is a little over an hour, and he's packing that into 4 different videos. Again, there's going to be people that don't want to watch that hour-long webinar or don't want to get into that. So kind of breaking down the webinar into a little bit more bite-sized pieces and giving people not having that time pressure of you have to watch it within 72 hours makes a lot of sense. So I like the continuity part that he has here, and he's kind of building up into like, okay, once you've gone through the kind of foundation of our process and you have an idea of whether you want to go into residential, which is kind of like that single family homes, or commercial, which they define as kind of like commercial real estate, but really into that multifamily, like the apartment investing, where there's bigger opportunity. Like that's really where they're pushing people along the way. So this military multifamily academy core cohort is really about investing in kind of those multiple door type of multifamily apartment buildings where you can get some more bang for your buck. There's bigger deals, bigger passive income, and you've got a team of 4 people that is helping you, find those deals, do the due diligence, reach out to investors, depending on what your role is within that team along the way. And then every single year they do a live event, which I'm sure enrolls even more people into their cohort, potentially into their mastermind. But you can see here, just in terms of what he's doing, in terms of the mastermind and one-to-one coaching, I think there is a potential opportunity. So if I just flip this, if I just thought about his business plan a little bit differently, like thinking about that one-to-one coaching, thinking about that mastermind, there certainly are people that are in the active duty right now and they're not involved in real estate or not at all. But there's certainly military members, currently and in the past that are heavily involved in real estate and could use some one-to-one coaching, could use a mastermind, and would be more than happy to join those, because I know there are, there are other military masterminds that are out there that are of lower quality, and I've seen their marketing and I've seen their organizations. They're of lower quality, but they're marketing a little bit more directly to people. They have a webinar. They have the ability on their website to join that mastermind right away. Right now, I'm sure if those people reached out and were more proactive about asking him to join that mastermind, they could. But just making it easier for people to join a little bit more directly, I think presents the opportunity of finding more of these people right now. So like in his ascension model right now, it's probably going to take him a couple of, like if he has 1,000 members that are kind of in this foundation here, he's hoping that some hundred, like a couple hundred people a year kind of move up to the cohort, move up to the mastermind, move up to one-to-one coaching. So again, like he's going to be like, based on his marketing, based on his mission, based on what he's doing right now, he's going to be successful. But there is a faster, easier, more lucrative approach where, again, if you a little bit like you can kind of fund a lot of this ascension that is coming through, kind of slow walk some people through the education of real estate and all those kind of things, but really focusing on this high end. So again, the one-to-one coaching might be 25K or above, but that's okay because there are military members, former and current, that do have that experience. They're just looking for that mentorship, especially from another military member that has done that. So they do have people as part of their mastermind. I've seen the testimonials where they're doing the deals. They have those people that can be mentors, and setting up that program, setting up that formal program. And again, this could be something that I could sell on his behalf as well. Like it could be 25, 30K a year, where they're taking a certain percentage of that money and giving the rest to that mentor as part of their community. It's kind of a win-win for those people that are part of the mastermind and want to be mentors and pass some of that information along. And those people that get mentors can be that next one-to-one coach along the way. Same thing from a mastermind. If we get more people into that mastermind, again, most masterminds are 20, 25K. Again, if you think about, as compared to the military multifamily academy cohort, where again, you might have 14, 16 people paying 5K each, it would be a lot easier to enroll, people at the high end in terms of this experience. So again, like one thing I would say is like, there's nothing wrong with his model as I go back to it here. But again, I think there's a lot of opportunity in terms of like building out the one-to-one coaching, the mastermind, and certainly getting more people into the cohort, because I know he has people that are dropping off. Again, just anytime you run a live webinar, people are going to fall off because the time doesn't work. So I'd say like, okay, can we split test, potentially giving people the replay right away? If they want to join right away, what does that do to show up rates? What does that do to people going through that whole entire process? And what does that do for people ultimately booking sales calls? And I know there's going to be a lot of drop off. I don't know what their show up rate is from a sales perspective, but I know there's a drop off in terms of that show up rate. So say it's 75% of people show up for that sales call. There's still that 25% that I can engage with. And then I'm sure there's plenty of people that say no to them. So again, the typical sales team conversion rate is probably around 25%. So you got another 75% of people that I could follow up and engage with, all via email, SMS, or direct message, and converse with them on a schedule that works for them. Especially if you're in the military, you don't have a lot of time, so it's really going back and forth with them, answering their questions, answering their objections, and really lining up their testimony, like their background, with the testimonials that they do have. So if I'm talking to somebody from the Navy or talking to somebody from the Marines or Air Force, I can directly line them up with those testimonials that they have in their program, of saying like, I know this doesn't seem possible for you, but like, let me introduce you to this person or this person or this person. Their story about how they were right in your shoes 5 years ago, and now they're earning passive income of 10K every single month. They didn't think they had the time either, but they spent 3 to 5 hours every single week as they're on their tour in Japan or where in Germany where they were stationed for a time, kind of working through every possible objection. I'm able to do that because I can take the whole log of testimonials that they do have. They have a long list of them, and I can really match them up with a sales conversation. So effectively, I'm taking those people that have had success with their program and their format and their strategy in the past, and I'm able to almost like have those people speak directly to them in the language that they understand, and to answer some of those objections. Like, hey, I recognize that you had that objection, hesitation, um, like that, because I had those same objections. But what I can tell you right now, as I've gone through the program, as I've worked with ADPI, their strategy, their way of thinking, like here's what I can tell you now. And that's a really important part of anytime you're selling high ticket is how can you answer those objections by really going back to the people that have been successful in your program and kind of reaching back and saying like, hey, I understand where you're coming from, but here's what I tell you based on what my experience has been, what the results have been, all those kind of things along the way. So that's a huge part of my process. And I think a huge part of what they could be doing, especially from one-to-one coaching, but also the mastermind of continuing to build up this community of really for military members only. So again, having that community of people that understand what you're going through, that understand of getting into real estate for the first time, super big part of that, and that ability to kind of continue to build up that camaraderie and match up people with the right things. And I think ability to certainly from a profit margin perspective and certainly from a scale perspective, some of these high ticket type of programs, if we are to offer them a little bit more directly to the community, could fund more of this stuff on the bottom part. So like again, we can get more people in at $14 a month, $97 a month, and potentially 5K a month. We can fill that ascension model that they have right now, by creating a little bit more demand at the top end. So if we can get more 25K people, into our mastermind, or 25K plus into our one-to-one coaching, that's going to fund some of our front end advertising that we're doing for that cohort, for that ADPI boot camp, which I kind of view as kind of like their downsell. So it's like, okay, like maybe you're not ready for the academy cohort, but we've got all we've got this other real estate education. You can jump into our community, start enjoying that. You've got some continuity at the bottom end as well. So just want to share a little bit more about that story. Again, kind of a unique company that I came across over the last few weeks. Again, I appreciate their mission of giving back time and money freedom to our military members who are fighting for our freedoms every single day. In my own personal story, I've begun to appreciate and kind of got off that time for money loop a couple of years ago. So I appreciate the freedoms that have been able to gain from doing that and getting some of that passive income along the way, and the freedoms that you can enjoy from that. So important a mission that I support, and just want to kind of point out what they're doing, but also the potential opportunities there as they could potentially build out their high ticket programs, get more experienced military members that are already invested in real estate, but could still appreciate their strategy, their approach, and get that coaching, be part of the mastermind. Because again, I've seen other military masterminds that are focused on real estate that, again, are in my opinion, are of lesser quality, but they're still taking advantage of the fact that these military members want that community, they want that real estate expertise, and getting that from other people, and they can certainly tap into that along the way by still getting people and funding some of the ascension that they're doing at the bottom end as well, for some of those beginners that are just getting into real estate along the way. So hope that was helpful in terms of like breaking down certain companies within the high ticket space, what they're doing, what they're focused on, some of that hidden revenue that is sitting there, just waiting for them to be realized. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you are alerted anytime I come out with new content. And with that, I'll see you on a future live.